We're on page 50. Page 50, we're starting a new chapter, chapter 5, called Hanedivut, generosity. Generosity is different than compassion. On a very simple level, generosity, the first thing that comes to mind normally is money. Financial generosity. Compassion is more general. Though we're going to see Rabbi Avraham tells us later on that Nedivut, the generosity, is not just generosity with money. Be generosity with your wisdom, with your time, with your whatever you can be generous with. But what is the definition? When I'm generous to someone else, what is the definition of generosity?
Giving of oneself.
Giving of oneself. Are there times where I give of myself, but I'm not being generous?
Well, only if you do it grudgingly.
Okay, so then giving of myself is not a good enough answer.
Right.
Because there is a situation where I give of myself, and it's not generous. Maybe I'll think generous is giving someone money. That's also not true, because if I give someone money who deserves money, let's say I borrow $20 from you, and I pay you back, I'm not being generous. I'm doing what I need to do. Hanedivut, says Rabbeinu Avraham, generosity, the definition of it here, bitui lahanakat rov tova lemi she'en lo tviya v'chiyuv al hamanik. It's the bestowal of good upon one who has no claim or entitlement to it.
Oh.
Anytime I do something good to someone who doesn't deserve it in a mean way, doesn't deserve it meaning I don't owe them anything, I'm choosing out of the goodness of my heart to do good to them, that's called generosity.
Would giving to a homeless person be considered in that category?
Generous, sure, yes. So what's not considered generous? Kilatet lefoel et scharo, to pay your employee his wages. V'lifroa lebal chov et chovo, to pay back someone who will owe money to his money. Ends on nedivut. That's not generosity.
I didn't understand. Paying money to employee salary?
Paying money to my employee,
Yes,
or paying back my debt to a creditor. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crown
That's not generosity. That's simply
Crown Heights teachers went on a strike. Jewish school teachers. Why? They didn't get paid.
I think Jewish teachers can go on strike everywhere in the world for not getting paid. Unfortunately, that's a big problem in the Jewish world. It was a big question. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein asked this question: can a teacher go on strike? A Jewish teacher,
for about 6 months.
even if they're not paid? The question is, what are they getting paid for? It's an interesting discussion to have. If you want to have a discussion, we can look it up together. But he says here, thank you. Ela tzedek v'yosher. This is just being straightforward. I pay back someone I owe money to. That's being straight. I paid my employee. That's being fair. This is not a generosity. V'ilu tzedakah la'aniyim, but giving charity to the poor. V'hachnasat orchim, bringing guests into our home. Umatanot, and giving gifts to people. Hareihem begeder nedivut. Those are all acts of generosity. I'll tell you now, I came to Israel to meet my mom's side of the family, and everybody there brought Elchanan a gift, a book, a toy. I came back with a suitcase full of stuff that they gave him.
On your mother's side?
On my mother's side.
Okay.
That is generosity. I don't owe them anything. They don't owe me anything. But that's it's being nice. I would argue that when you're invited to a wedding, giving a gift at a wedding is not. It's not you being generous. The person who made the wedding is spending a significant amount of money on you. And essentially all you're doing is paying your portion. Or you should be.
You're right.
When a person invites me to a wedding, and the wedding, every person, let's say every couple, the plate is $150. So I should give, if I can, 10 times chai to that wedding. 5 times, whatever it would be. I need to cover at least my expense. That's not called being generous. That's called... I want to tell you, I hold this in most of the time. We're in a synagogue, in a Beit Knesset, and the Beit Knesset has expenses. We have expenses. And there are people that come every single week, and they use, and they use, and they use, and they use, and they're not from the people who give. Oh, but I pay membership. Your membership covers just the beginning fraction of the synagogue. Every fork, every plate, every knife, every piece of fish, every spoon of cholent, every salad, everything comes from somewhere. And it blows my mind sometimes that a person can take and take and take and take and take. And at least what I'll tell you, at least at the end of Shabbat, put $10 into the tzedakah box. Because if you were to make Shabbat lunch at your house, you would never be able to do it less than $10. Is that fair? When I go to Bet Knesset out of town, and I stay for the Kiddush, I always leave a check, and I don't even have money to leave a check to people. But $18, $36, whatever I can do in that week, I at least took that amount from the place that I was at. At least. That's not called being generous. That's called doing what I must do. And the fact that the world is not
an obligation, or
I don't know obligation, because I'll tell you why I wouldn't use the word obligation. Because we're going to do it anyways, and therefore. Obligation means if you stop doing it, I'm not going to do my part. It's not an obligation, but it's very close to an obligation. It's on a spiritual level, it's definitely an obligation. You never want to be receiving and not giving. It's a dangerous thing for a person in the Shema to get used to that. To take and never to give. In a relationship, it's the same way. You know, your wife doesn't have to do your laundry. She doesn't have to. It doesn't say, you didn't sign a contract anywhere with her that she's going to do your laundry. She does it for you. It's a generous thing on her behalf. So at the very least, you can make her life easy. At the very least, you can put the laundry in the laundry basket. At the very least, you can try to separate the colors between I'm not being racist here, between the whites and the colors and at least the very least you can put your clothes inside, the right side out. You know, it doesn't have to be, because that's what a person should do when they're being straight. Now, is it an obligation? No, it's not an obligation. She'll probably chase after you and pick up your clothes from the floor and put them. But so I wouldn't use the word obligation, but it's an understanding. It's fair. You know, when a man comes home from work and let's say he's the one who provides. Baruch Hashem, in today's world, you have families where both of them are providing an income, or maybe like some of them, the wife is the one who's providing more income than the man is, and whatever the family is. But imagine I'm talking here about a family where the man is the one who works, and the wife works and taking care of the family and the children in the home. There's also a limit of. I have a friend. I sat with him recently for lunch. He makes over $12,000 a month after taxes. He told me he's not able to pay his bills. His wife goes shopping more than $7,000 a month.
There are some family like that. I know a family in New York.
She should go for therapy.
Yeah.
She needs help.
What's she buying?
Yes.
I don't know what she's buying. I don't know what a car every month. I don't know what she's buying every month.
Very expensive clothes, I guess.
But she's not working for this
Have you looked
money.
at the prices of handbags, women's handbags lately? They're $300-400 for a handbag.
Hashem Yishmor. I know someone said he bought a pair of shoes for $700. So you shouldn't walk on shoes that cost $700. Every time you take a step, you're losing $1. You know, I'm not being stingy here. She has to sit down with her husband and say, listen, we have expenses, we have food, we have children's schools and gas, and let's figure out, so what is a reasonable amount? That's a fair thing to do. Now, he's also maybe being good by not saying anything, but at the end of the day, it's going to come to hurt him, or come to hurt them, and hurt their relationship. Generosity is when I do something that I'm not obligated to do, but I do it anyways. I don't have to host everybody who calls me up. You know, I always tell Hashem should give me, every time someone calls they need a place to stay, unless there's a reason for me to say no, I try to always say yes. And the reason is, because Hashem gives me a house that's much bigger than I need. What do I need? I need one bedroom, maybe another one for my son, a bathroom, and a place to eat. That's all I'm asking for. Hashem gives me more than that, so I have to use the rest of my home to do mitzvot. I don't have a choice. If I want Hashem to keep giving me enough goodness and livelihood to be able to do that. A person must look at the world this way. You can't look at the world the way we're taught in this country. We're taught everything I have belongs to me. It's mine, I don't even have to share it with you. I was at the park today, Stanley Park, here. Mm-hmm. Yes. I was very impressed. My son was playing there. I grew up in the same park. So it's like coming around full circle. But I was very impressed with something. You know, somebody has to water the grass, and somebody has to fix the playground when it's broken, and to redo the cement on the sidewalk, and to take out the garbage, and to trim the trees, whatever they do there. Yeah. It's your tax dollars that go to that. You pay taxes, and the government gives you back by giving you such a park. It's a big chesed, it's a big kindness. I owe it to society to pay my taxes so that people can have a park, they can have a place to walk, they can have a place to take their children. But that's a good thing that you find in the world. The government goes, oh, you owe me your money, I'm not going to give you anything back. That's the form of government in many countries in the world. They take your money and you don't see anything from it. For thousands of years, that's how we lived our life. We live in a world of kindness, of chesed. There are trails by the beach you can go for a walk on. There are state parks and city parks and Baruch Hashem. But that's a healthy society where I don't just think about myself. I have an obligation to also help other people. And I shouldn't, every time I help somebody else, I need a thank you. What do you need a thank you for? And I was once, I was in a car ride. Someone drove me from Baltimore to New York.
Baltimore to New York.
Yeah, almost 4.5 hours. I was
2.5 hours.
And I wanted to pay him some money for the gas at the end of the trip. He said, can I pay you? He said, no. I said, what do you mean? Can I pay you a little bit? He said, no. I said, how much are you going to pay me? I said, $20, $30, how much can I pay you? So he tells me, for $20, you want to take away my mitzvah? He says, if you were going to pay me $1 million, I would consider it, If you're going to buy me a new car, I would consider it. If you're going to pay off my mortgage, I'd think about it. You want to give me $20 so I should lose a mitzvah of driving somebody all 4.5 hours to New York? Get out of my car. That's the attitude to look at the world at. Everything we're being so stingy about. But then the day I do a chesed. And that chesed, I don't ask to be paid back for it. Do you know how much more that's worth? When you do a mitzvah and you don't tell anybody that you did the mitzvah. The person who donates something and then they want a plaque on the wall. They're allowed a plaque on the wall. Do you know how much greater of a mitzvah they get when they don't put a plaque on the wall? So why do we put a plaque on the wall? Because at the end of the day we need, and this is the reason a person's going to give. Okay, fine. So that's what we do. But how much more so would be, I just want to give, don't tell anybody that I gave. When my grandfather passed away, people came to the house to say, thank you for paying off my son's wedding. My grandfather didn't have money to put food on the table. But to pay off somebody else's wedding, he helped. Arabs came to my grandfather's Shiva house to pay back debts they owed him.
Oh, wow.
And nobody knew about it. His family didn't know about it.
That they owed him money.
They owed him money that he had lent them. Non-Jewish people, Arabs. I'm not talking to you about your next door neighbor here in San Diego. Arabs in Israel. Chesed, the world, you can never do too much. If it hurts you, maybe it's a problem. But if you're able to, in a healthy way, to do a lot, and don't tell anybody about it. Harehem begeder nedivut, all of these things. Doing achnasat ochim, inviting people to your house for a meal. Well, you don't have to invite people to your house for a meal. You can just sit in yourself, with your wife, with your kids. What do you have to invite other people for? When you invite someone else to your table, doing a chesed to them. By the way, it's a proper thing. When someone comes to someone's house for a meal, they bring something.
But you can't bring a homeless person for your meal Friday night.
Sure you can.
Get into trouble.
Now in America, it's a different problem. America, it's a different world. So in Israel, you have Jewish people. They don't have a place to go for Friday night dinner. The poor guy, you're going to drag him off the street. You're going to bring him to your house. You're going to sing Shalom Aleichem and Eshet Chayil. By the time you finish Kiddush, he's going to pass out of your table. I'm talking about somebody who knows. It doesn't stop you from taking food and giving it to homeless people. That's also true. This you could do. They also need help. But I'm talking in a normal fashion. There are people sometimes in the synagogue that have never been to somebody's house. I don't know how you could pray with somebody for a year and they've never seen the inside of your house. It's a strange thing. But it happens. And why does it happen? Because we're taught from the beginning that we shouldn't be too kind to people. If you're too kind, they call you all kinds of names. You're a friar, you're a naive person. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about losing a little bit. Hashem always pays back. So B'ezrat Hashem, generosity is the next character trait. And he's going to talk to us about the limits. You can't be too generous. Sometimes you have to. You also can't be too stingy. We're going to discuss the boundaries of nedivut. But this was the introduction for today.